My guest today is Michelle E. Dickinson. Michelle draws from her own experience as a caregiver for her bipolar mom. Michelle understands the immense challenges that life throws our way. Instead of merely surviving, she believes in thriving. She has shattered the traditional notion of mental health, and instead she champions the path of emotional well-being, self-reliance, and personal mastery. Michelle's revolutionary perspective has resonated deeply with people from every corner of society, empowering them to lead more fulfilling lives. I'm really excited to bring you Michelle E. Dickinson, workplace resilience coach, TED speaker, best-selling author. She is an absolute force of nature, igniting powerful shifts and critical impact in the national education space, Fortune 500 companies, and even among our brave first responders. My mission: to end the silence, the stigma, and the shame about suicide loss, ideation, and mental health. Please, won't you join me?
Suicide Zen Forgiveness, the pod that shares the stories of those affected by suicide. Lost a loved one? Attempted it yourself? Come listen in with your host, Elaine Lindsay. Please note, the Suicide Zen Forgiveness podcast is for education only. Some of this subject matter could be triggering. For those of you that are either grieving or having mental health problems, please call your local suicide hotline or mental health office if you need immediate help. And now, here's your host, Elaine Lindsay.
Hello, it's good to be back. It's Elaine Lindsay, and as this is Suicide Zen Forgiveness. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Michelle up to the stage. Hello there.
Hello, Elaine. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's lovely to see you.
It's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
And I'm glad you're feeling better.
Yes, thank you.
It's always a challenge, I find, in the winter. Doesn't matter where people live, but we seem to have a lot more going around in the winter.
Yeah. Just need to rest. You need to listen to your body and rest. That's what I had the biggest problem with, but I did it and I'm feeling better, and that's what matters.
That's absolutely true. And when you don't, I was one of these people who would push and push as far as I could. And this year I went to actually PodFest, which is a big convention in Florida in the end of January. And coming back on the plane, I was not warm. Okay, that's all I thought. I was not warm. And the gentleman next to me gave me his coat, and the airline stewardess was concerned. I didn't realize my lips were blue, and I was just frozen. By the time I got home, I was bedridden for almost a month and a half.
Oh, no.
I had a lung infection that just seemed to come out of nowhere.
Wow.
And it's your body saying, you can't do that. Okay. You got to slow down. You got to pay attention.
Yeah.
That's a little lesson for everybody. Listen to your body.
Yeah.
When you start to feel a little tired or run down, give yourself a break.
Yeah. Oh, big time.
I always preface with my guests that it's their story to tell. So I want to give them the leeway to do that in whatever fashion seems appropriate for my guest. Michelle, we know that you're into resilience. I know that we talked in putting out your little bio, we talked about the fact that your mother was bipolar, and this has brought you to where you are now with TEDx talks and books. And I think resilience is probably one of the 5 things that I believe every human being really needs. With that said, I'm just going to let you go ahead and start where you want to.
You're so kind. Be careful what you offer. No, I will tell you, you're right. I grew up with a mother who had bipolar disorder, and anyone who has a family member regardless if it's a parent, it could be a sibling, anyone who has a family member with a mental illness, it tends to affect the entire family.
Mhm.
And so when you're little, you're very impressionable. So that shapes you, that shapes your experience. We talked a little bit before how there's this role reversal when you have a parent with a mental illness. You grow up quick and then you have to take responsibility of the adult in many cases. I became a big empath. So I was always scanning and evaluating the space to
Right.
understand what was her mood. What am I walking into? Is she going to hit me today or is she going to give me a hug? Like you just never knew. As an adult, I'm extremely conscientious of energy and people and how people are feeling. So yeah.
Oh, and that's something that we don't think about. But I bet if you talk to a lot of people that are very empathetic,
Hmm.
they had someone with mental illness or chronically ill,
Yeah.
because you have those same things you have to look out for.
Right.
There's always those triggers. You always have to be on high alert.
Yeah. Yeah. As a little girl, it forced me to grow up a little quicker and it forced me to be very resourceful. There's a lot of silver lining. As much as I know it was a challenging childhood and people are always telling me, oh, Michelle, but it's not normal for someone to grow up the way you did. Honestly, I wouldn't be doing the work I'm doing. You mentioned the resilience. I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't go through that experience and grow and learn from it and heal from it. So my gift to the world, I'm able to give because I had that experience.
Thank you so much. Because in my head, the whole time we started talking, it was like, you've got to make sure that you ask Michelle what good things came out of this.
Yeah,
Because I know that they do.
of course.
It's for every bad, there's a good. For
Right.
every up, there's a down. Like, it's just the way the world works.
Hmm.
But what we got to point out here is it's different types of human beings that honestly see the silver lining rather than
Yeah.
the empty cup.
It's easy though. If it's easy to see the empty cup if you don't recognize the opportunity you have to heal and grow from the experience. You also lose all control. You have no sense of agency if you write yourself off to being the victim of a circumstance.
Absolutely. And having that uncertainty
Hmm.
can be uncertainty is one of the things that humans require certainty to be able to function well. So it's good that you had some inner resilience to start off with rather than going through that victim period.
Yeah.
And we're able to take, weird way to put it, but you were able to take what you were handed and run with it
Hmm.
and find what you needed.
Yeah, I did a lot of work though. I'm not going to say that poof, I emerged as this person. Like I did a lot of inner work. I had moments in my life where, like my first, I think I tell this story quite a bit, but like my first marriage, I married the male version of my mother.
Oh my God.
So then what happens is the marriage ends and here I'm left to pick up the pieces. And so what did that do? That forced me into therapy, clinical therapy, where I could start to see these patterns and what we gravitate toward. When that began the healing process for me, because I was curious, okay, what was this all about? I'm not going to walk away from this situation and not learn. So, how did my mother's upbringing affect me and lead me to this situation? And what do I do with it now so I don't repeat the pattern? Yeah, I did
Yeah.
that.
Well, yeah. And that is hats off to you.
Thank you.
Because
I think too that sent me off down the path of doing self-discovery programs. I did landmark education, then I did Tony Robbins because I was constantly wanting to peel back the onion and go,
yeah,
okay. So I arrived as a standing member of society, contributing. I didn't crumble. Okay, so I thought that was the victory, but in my experience, I was like, no, I have to really understand how did that affect me, and how is that going to shape my future?
yeah. It's interesting on so many levels because becoming empathetic, I think, is really important. And for many years, I've said that those that work as first responders,
Mm.
like doctors, nurses, policemen, they need to spend 24 to 48 hours as a patient or as a someone in the cells or as somebody that has had a traumatic experience
Yeah.
and see it from the other side,
Yeah.
actually live it.
Yes.
Because a lot of people who are in those areas, they want to be helpful, but if they've never had anything traumatic or largely traumatic happen
Yeah.
to them, it can be very difficult to be empathetic
Hmm.
when somebody's howling in pain or when somebody's screaming at you in anger if you don't understand how that can happen.
It's so true. And for many years, mental illness to me was something my mother had, and it was over there. It was never something that I ever had to endure myself.
Yeah.
So, as much as I understood and I hated seeing her suffer, oh, I hated seeing her crying uncontrollably. There's nothing more painful than seeing someone you love
Oh, yeah.
having mental anguish, and there's nothing you can do. So I was the observer and I felt awful and had the empathy to a degree. It
Yeah.
wasn't until I went through a life event when I was diagnosed with depression that I actually started to get it from, like you
Yeah.
just said, like I finally started to really like, oh, so that's what it feels like, that you don't want to get out of bed and you don't want to do the things you love. So that's how hard life felt for her. Wow. Like now I can understand it. She had passed at that point, but that gave me an entirely new dimension to mental
Yeah.
illness when I was diagnosed. I was like, whoa.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's it's incredibly important, but that's exactly what I meant.
Hmm.
What was it's different when you're looking in on something and you can be the kindest person. You
Yeah.
can be doing the job for all the right reasons,
Hmm.
but if you have never felt any of that,
Yeah.
it's really hard to give yourself wholly to helping someone and understanding the limits. Like you said, knowing she's at a place where you just there was nothing you could do,
Right.
and being that observer, it's what was needed at the time.
Hmm.
But like how intelligent of you on some level to understand that was all that could be required of you at that point.
Yeah. Having a mental illness too taught me about what I could do to help myself. I think what's interesting is I released the book. So I'll give you the quick summary. I worked a really great job. I was invited to give a TED talk about my mom because someone nominated me. That pretty much shifted my entire trajectory because I became very much an open advocate for mental health from my TED talk. That led me to write my memoir. And I was still working in my corporate job when I released the memoir. I even have an epilogue at the back that highlights all the good stuff. What did you really learn? What's the positives, right? And that was at that point. I hadn't even left the corporate space to do what I'm doing now. So it's like pretty interesting. I hadn't even been diagnosed with depression at that point. So it's fascinating to me because like then I get divorced the second time, and that's when I'm diagnosed with depression, and I lose my job all in 1 week. My marriage ends and my corporate career comes to an end because of a restructuring. So
Oh,
there I am. But fortunate for me, because mental illness was always something that was part of my life, I had no hesitation in reaching out for clinical care. And I
yeah.
know that's a big barrier for people. They don't want to admit
Mhm.
it. But for me, I was like, all right, so I know my mom had been in and out of psych hospitals, but she also had therapists along the way. So I had no hesitation, found myself an amazing therapist. He helped me and he was extraordinarily conservative. So I remember asking him for medication. And I said to him, I want medication because this is really hard. And he's like, Michelle, this is more of a circumstantial depression. And I really want to encourage you to find healthy things to lean on. So it's not medication. I want you to feel your way through this. This is a life event that is here to serve you. He was so brilliant. He's such a brilliant therapist.
Wow.
So basically his no meant you got to figure it out. You got to find. So I started leaning into other things. Like I got really connected. My cousin and I did a triathlon. So I had to train for that. That gave me an outlet, gave me something to
Yeah.
focus on, kept me moving, right? My body needed to move and I needed to have these little goals. So I taught myself how to be resilient with what I had. And I also had connection with friends and things. So I learned what was necessary to keep myself above the line. Like I was really aware, if this is going to be okay, I have to take this on because my doctor's not giving me anything. So that was the greatest gift ever,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
now I feel myself, like I deal with seasonal depression all the time. But like now, if I feel myself as an entrepreneur being isolated, I know what I need to do to keep myself well. And it's not in a bottle. It's not a
Yeah.
pill. Like I know some people need medication, whatever. Everyone's journey is different. But for me, man, did that give me such control to go, okay, I know what's in my toolbox and what will help me.
Yeah. Yeah. And see, that's really key because although drugs are helpful
Mm-hmm.
for some people, drugs are an escape. I'm speaking from experience.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Drugs allow you to be numb, they
Mm-hmm.
allow you to escape the world.
Yeah.
And it's different. Like you are much younger than me. So your generation had started to have a different view of mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
The words were no longer whispered in the dark
Right.
or hidden behind closed doors. It became something, and having therapy was not such a. When I was young, I'm 68 years old, so it was that was something shameful
Mm-hmm.
that either the rich did or
Mm-hmm.
someone who had to be put away.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have that to the extent we did back then. Electroshock therapy was a given.
Yep.
Okay. Being put in an institution
Yep.
was a given. And there was very little that was talked about in these difficult subjects
Mm-hmm.
that you could talk about even inside your family, never mind outside.
Yeah.
So I think it's wonderful that we've come a long way. We have an awful long way to go.
Yeah.
But we came far enough that you lived it as a child.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of, I think, the benefits, because when you became depressed, you understood that
Yeah.
something was wrong.
Right.
Okay. Being so afraid of being put away for weird thoughts or feelings
Yeah.
kept some of us silent
Yeah.
for like 50 years,
Yeah. I could see that. Yeah.
not saying anything.
Yeah.
And I am not one of a few, I am one of many,
Mm-hmm.
because it just was so taboo. And it's sad. I'm much more, less concerned. I am more hopeful
Mm-hmm.
for the new generations,
Mm-hmm.
because especially millennials and Gen Z,
Yeah.
the minute there is something not right, they will go or they will ask for help.
Yeah.
I think is wonderful.
Yeah. So
I,
it's
I,
so good.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's incredible. And I want us to get to a place where it doesn't matter if you're 90 or 9.
Yeah.
You can talk openly
Mm-hmm.
about your feelings, whatever they are, and those feelings that are making you uncomfortable.
Yeah. That's important. It is. I know my mom hated going to the institution. She was in and out multiple times. I know she had shock therapy. When I was writing my book, I did a lot of research about it because I wanted to really understand it. I only experienced my mom before and after she
Yeah,
was in the hospital. I had no idea what was going on when she was in there.
yeah,
But then I watched The Secret Life of the Manic Depressant with Fry. His name was Fry. So good. Such a good
Yeah.
documentary. And it had Carrie Fisher in it. And
Yes.
it
Yes.
gave me a lot of insight into, oh, wow. Especially when Carrie Fisher in the movie says, they say, if you could not have bipolar disorder, would you get rid of it? And she said,
No.
because
No.
the highs and the highs were worth it. When my mom was high, my mom was happy as a clam, and it was like Disney being with her.
Yeah.
Elation. Like I had never seen someone so happy and so alive and vibrant. So it made sense when Carrie Fisher said, no, I wouldn't get rid of this disease.
No.
It's like, wow.
I worked at an institution. I volunteered for 4 years when I was a teenager, and then was allowed to work there for summers.
Wow.
Yeah, good and bad.
Sure.
Yeah. It made the silence even more ironclad
Yeah,
because of what I saw.
I'm sure.
And that was right on top of losing my friend, and so numbness was my land of choice.
I have a friend that just lost his friend like 3 days ago to suicide.
Oh.
And I'm only mentioning this because of the name of your show. And we had dinner the other night and we were talking about it. And he was like, but I don't understand. I just had lunch with the guy like a few days ago and he seemed okay. He was having some problems, but he seemed okay. And he just couldn't reconcile like how. And the only thing I could say was like in that moment where he made that decision, he had no hope. What was missing was that little bit of hope to pull him through.
And when there's no hope, the mental, emotional, physical pain, you just want it gone.
Yes.
Just gone. When there's hope, you can see some past the pain,
Right.
even if it's a micro millimeter.
Right.
But when there's no hope, just the pain, whatever that is, then the end is all you can see.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you, this as a survivor of someone you lost, and then there's what could I have done? Was I not tuned in enough? Should I have asked more questions? But I know that's what he's doing. I know he's sitting there saying to himself, should I have done more? Could I have asked more questions? Could I have spent more time with him?
Playing the last conversation.
Absolutely.
Checking with other friends. What did we miss?
Yes. It's hard.
True.
So anyway, I wanted to tell you about like how I landed where I am, because it's so interesting because I never thought I would leave a corporate job and dive into the entrepreneur space, but I got really connected to wanting to just help people realize they had more control than they thought. Mm-hmm. So I said to myself, why are we talking about mental illness and depression and these things after the fact to correct? Why are we not proactively looking and saying, could we do more upfront, right? Like me, when I was diagnosed with depression and then I was started to feel better. And then I was like, oh, I have these tools now that I can keep myself doing well. So I wanted to share those. I think that was the biggest thing was I was like, I want to share this with people because I knew so many folks were on the verge of burnout. We were coming out of COVID. People were working too much, or they had financial strain, or they had problems at home from COVID, whatever.
Or all of the above.
Yeah. So I was like, why are we not? I almost became done with being an advocate because I thought an advocate's a great approach to get people to talk about it and those that are suffering to maybe move toward treatment. I think that's important. But I said, why are we not talking about this up front so people don't feel like a sitting duck waiting to burn out? So that's when I created my resilience practice. And so now what I do is I get to coach and train people on the very things that I'm doing to keep myself well every day. And they're powerful and they work. And that's why I'm excited because I say to myself, I don't want people to feel like they got to hit burnout. They got to hit rock bottom. And then you got to climb your way back and build resilience. No, like I believe we could be building our resilience every single day, so we're ready and we're more prepared to deal with the inevitable adversity and stress that's coming.
See, that makes so much sense to me, and we have to widen the net because Western medicine is not preventative.
No.
Okay, it comes in after. We wait till you're so sick you can't do anything but go to the doctor or the emergency, the whatever.
Yeah.
And if we actually did prevention and armed people with a toolbox that could keep them healthy,
Yeah.
it would make so much more sense, because then you can catch these things head on.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're more likely to take those tools and understand. It's like taking your blood pressure.
Yes.
Okay, if you have a heart condition, you take your blood pressure.
Yes.
If you want to keep yourself healthy, then you need to check what's in your toolbox and what do I need to use today.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people feel like they're at the effects of their routine and inadvertently, like they're not setting out to neglect themselves. I know this. I know this from the people that I talk to. They're just at the effects of responsibility, whether it's work or it's their family or they have aging parents, like whatever it is, they're just trying to be so much to everybody else that they get lost in the sauce, right? So it's getting them to realize that like you can't show up the best version of yourself if you are completely depleted. But it takes a mindset shift. It takes people realizing and relating to caring for yourself, not as an option if there's time. It's a necessity, like eating a meal or breathing. These are necessities for us to feel our best and be able to preserve our well-being.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, that goes to, you are an advocate, but it's more than that. Okay, beating the drum to get people to use that toolbox, I think is critically important. And I think what I'm saying, my mission goes hand in hand with that, because if we end the silence, we erase the stigma, and we get rid of the shame surrounding these taboo things, then people can step up and say, I've got a little too much on my plate at this point. I think I need to talk to somebody and talk to my resilience coach, and we'll figure out what's in my toolbox that's going to help me now.
Yeah. And it's also too realizing that your lens, people say all the time, be happy, be positive, just be positive, like power through and be positive. Like it's really freaking hard to see possibility and to see the goodness if you're completely overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So it's not like a switch. You could just all of a sudden say, I'm going to be positive. No, like it's so much harder. Like my example of being sick last week. You think I could see anything positively when I was sick? So I want people to realize that you're not giving yourself a chance to have a positive outlook if you're completely depleted. And you can't like just power through and pretend, because that's not going to be sustainable. So you gotta fill your tank. You gotta do the basics. Like you gotta get sleep. You gotta move your body. You gotta connect with people that you love. You gotta do the hobby that you love. You gotta be out in nature, drink your water. Like not a lot of hard things to do, but the basics to give your body what it needs.
Absolutely. And one thing that, add to your resilience toolbox if you want, I think one of the most important things that we don't do is just say hello to other people.
Connect.
Okay? I cannot understand how many people I talk to don't know their neighbors. Yeah. I don't mean you have to go in and have dinner with them or do any of that, but my God, if somebody lives beside you, can you not just say hello?
Yeah.
You take the garbage out, or you get into the car, or you walk down the street, you're walking the dog. Just say hello. Yeah. That might be the only positive word that person gets all day. Yeah. And that is such a gift for both of you.
Yeah. Yeah. I know we live in such a digitally connected world that we're so disconnected from.
Yeah, everybody's looking down at their phone.
Yeah.
I can't walk and chew gum at the same time. So me trying to look at a phone when I was doing it just would not work. People will tell you I'm the eternal Pollyanna. And it's not a case of forcing myself to be happy or trying to be positive all the time. It's just being thankful for the little things.
Yeah.
Because when you do that, and when I do, if I'm not feeling great, if I'm outside and somebody walks by, I will say hello. I will make myself say hello
Mhm.
because I know that can make a difference for someone. I don't know who, I don't know how,
Mhm.
and I have no intention of following up because that's not my place.
Yeah.
But just knowing that this little word that I can give away
Mhm.
costs me nothing,
Yeah.
but maybe a lifeline for somebody else.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's a Pollyanna thing.
Yeah. It's important. Just eye contact with another human being.
Yeah.
I know.
It's something we lost.
Mhm.
The internet has done a lot of good
Sure.
for a lot of people, but it's like anything else in excess is not good for us. And giving young people the ability to airbrush everything in their lives,
Yeah.
it becomes an obsession
Oh,
and
yeah.
a real problem
Mhm.
because they're all going so far the other way.
Yeah.
It's, as you said, not sustainable at
Right.
all.
It's true. One of the things, it's funny that you mentioned the being just extending yourself to someone. One of the things I try really hard to remind my clients is it's so easy for us to focus on the negative stuff in our life. It's so easy. And most people are like, what am I supposed to do? Forget about it, bury my head in the sand. And I'm like, but no, it's all about, and I do videos about this all the time on TikTok and Instagram because I feel like people need to get that they're not so unusual. We're all very similar.
Mm-hmm.
The mind isn't wired to make us happy.
Nope.
The mind is wired to protect us. So it's doing its job when it wants to think about everything that's wrong. And when we think about things that are wrong in our life, there's no opportunity for us to look at what's good. We step over all the love, all the abundance, all the good stuff in front of us because the mind's trying to protect you over here and have you ruminate on something that feels like crap.
And because it wants to keep status quo.
Oh, yeah.
And that's people say, but why does my mind go? Because, okay, if it keeps things exactly where they are right now,
Yeah.
then you're much more likely to be safe.
Safe. Yeah.
Mind thinks.
Yes.
In a lot of cases, that's not true
Of
at
course.
all. But you're absolutely right. All the bad stuff is what we concentrate on. But the other thing is this, okay? If you think about bad things and you think, oh, nobody likes me, nobody's going to talk to me. No, yeah, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because you're going out there with this big shield that says, get away from me. Don't talk to me.
Yeah.
But if you go out there and just try for a change, go out there and virtually take that shield down, put a smile on your face,
Yeah.
and just know that everyone will respond.
Yes.
And not exactly everybody. Some people have ear pods in, some people may not hear you for a block.
Mhm.
But giving it a try,
Yeah.
what you put out comes back.
Yeah.
And if you believe, okay, that, I don't know, you're going to see a dog every 25 feet, trust me, you will. Your brain will try to make that happen.
Yeah.
And we're wired that way.
Yeah.
And I found, for me, that's a way to get rid of the negative, is to think about positive things.
But it takes an effort. It takes a conscious effort.
Yeah.
When we walk around on default, we're walking around just at the effects of what our brain is thinking and what life is throwing at us. And that is not a very empowering experience.
No. And it's, they say that when you buy a car, you buy a white car. You didn't see a lot of white cars before, but now that's what your brain does.
Yeah.
With a little bit of effort, you can make those things that you're seeing be things that are appealing, things
Yeah.
that are nice. When our kids were little, we opened a children's wear store, and it was about 3 or 4 months leading up to this store's grand opening. And we had to drive, it was fairly far from our house. And I would tell them on the way to look for groundhogs because it was getting spring. And if you count the groundhogs, that's how good a day it will be. And on the day we opened, on the way there, I think the kids, it was somewhere in the 20s, and they were all excited. And we got into the store, and we had a fabulous day, but the kids had a fabulous day. And we had life size raccoons and different things for this grand opening. And I can remember my son and daughter saying, like, it had to be good. We saw 20, whatever it was, groundhogs. So it was a really good day. It was just such a ridiculous measurement.
Yeah.
But it made the kids happy.
Yeah.
And then they were more upbeat. And when you are more upbeat, that's what you attract.
Absolutely. And that's the message that I think is important for people to realize. Our thoughts create our emotions. If we want to have a different emotion, we have to have a different thought. Yes. So I have this thing where it's real easy to ruminate about negative things. And then I'm a huge fan of Esther Hicks and so many amazing people. And she says, change the channel, change the dial. You don't have to give your energy to that thought. Change it. Have a different thought. If you have a different thought, you're going to have a different feeling. You have a different feeling, you're going to emit a different energy. Yeah. It's all tied together.
Oh, absolutely. And Esther Hicks, and along those lines, I can remember, this is a long time ago, they used to talk about, you go into a meeting in corporate, you go into a meeting and there's one person in the meeting who, I don't know, spilled his coffee, or his wife barked at him, or her, or whatever. And so they're actually vibrating at a much lower level. Yeah. So they're angry and snarky and don't want to talk. And humans, as you said, the brain will go to the negative. So everybody in the room will feel a little depressed. Yeah. But if one person comes into that room and they're happy and they're thrilled and they're putting out thoughts of rainbows and unicorns, people can't help but try to get on that train. Yeah. Because it feels
good. Yeah. It feels much better. Yeah.
Yeah.
So true.
It's a good tool to add to your toolbox.
Love it. I love it. Yeah. It's really good.
What's next for you?
It's such a loaded question.
I know.
I've been really fortunate, Elaine. I've had the privilege of getting to coach a lot of educators here in New Jersey. I have been in, 5, 6 districts now where teachers who are on the verge of burnout are coming to me over the past several years. So I have accumulated a lot of really good data, right? So now I have all of this wonderful insight into how we've moved the needle from where they were at burnout to thriving and feeling good and staying in their job. Like, I'm really excited because now I'm going to take that information and I'm going to put it into an ebook in a way that helps people realize they can build their resilience by leveraging digital tools to help them. Yeah. Because I realized that in every coaching conversation, we were always talking about supports that would help them have a behavior shift. Yeah. And so many of these little tools were so super effective in between our coaching calls. I just want to share that. I'm at the point now where I want to share that with people. They don't necessarily need to come to me for one-on-one coaching, but what they can gain is, if I want to feel better, I can follow what this particular person did and look what they did. And that moved the needle for them. I never even thought if I practice gratitude in the morning, or if I set an intention and had a small moment for myself before I rush into my day, that could actually help me. I want to share those things.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. Perfect. You be sure and let us know as soon as that's ready, because we will definitely help with that.
Thank you.
I can't say thank you enough, because I have a group of friends that are teachers, and some are in America, and some are in Canada, and some are in Britain,
Oh, wow.
and Spain and France. There are universal things that are driving them to burnout, and it's heartbreaking. So having tools that
Mhm.
you can use, and I know other jobs as well, but
Sure.
teachers are in charge for most of the day of the next generation.
And they have a lot more on their plate
Oh my
than
God, yes.
ever before. They
Yeah.
have behavioral issues with children. They have parents that are just not nice to them. They have demands from their administration. Like, I see them, they get on calls with me and they're like, the pressure that they're getting from
Oh
every
my
angle.
God, yeah.
I want to help them stay doing what they love to do because they've forgotten why they got into teaching, because
Yeah.
it's completely taking every last ounce of their energy.
Yeah. And when you take the joy from jobs and careers that people really loved, I think it's even worse for them than
Yes.
someone who took a job just because they had to.
Yes.
You can't, there's no joy to take away.
Right.
That was a job of expediency. Teachers, for the most part, do it because they love to
Absolutely.
educate children, to
Absolutely.
help our next generation. And that to me, honest to God, is criminal. And I'm seeing it in every single one of them.
Yeah.
And I think, oh my God. Because I'll be honest, I do not have the patience. I I just don't have the wherewithal to be a teacher.
Yeah. I
I,
know. God bless them.
oh my God, yes, yes. You do what I cannot. And I so thank you for it, because we're also making our children more difficult, more needy by virtue of what's happening around them.
Yep.
When it's not always the parents, it's not always what's around them, but it's often a horrific blend of both, even when the parents are nothing but interested in their children. That too can be a bit much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's,
And teachers give to a fault.
oh
That's
my
something
God,
that
yes.
they will give and give. They will forego. And so when they come to me, I'm like, the first thing you need to get is, you got to take care of you. It's not an option. It's
Yeah.
not an option anymore. I love how much you want to give, but you have nothing to give.
Absolutely.
And a lot of it is mind shifting. And I don't even want to go down the rabbit hole of the fact that they don't get compensated what they should. I love the districts that are hiring me because they see the value in giving the support.
Absolutely.
So then the teachers don't have to the burden. They don't
Yeah.
have to carry the burden of the coaching fee. Like, the schools pay for
Oh,
that.
that's good.
And that's how it should be. Because if the schools want to keep their teachers healthy and happy and in their role and not lose them, they really need to do a little bit more.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, because all the teachers I know not only extend themselves time and care and consideration, but financially as well. They
yeah.
all bring so much to the classroom, so much to the kids, because the schools can't or aren't or don't, or
Yep.
however that works, which is just really sad, because I think that's where we should be funneling most of our funding, is to that next generation.
I agree.
We've taken an awful lot from them. We should give them something.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
Wow. Wow. That's a trip. Okay. With that in mind, oh my God, I think that's so wonderful. And again, without your background, without all you went through as you grew up, you harnessed that for what you're doing. You harnessed it to become who you are now. But just think how many people would be lacking without you. And hats off to you. I think that's incredible. And what a noble place to be doing your work with teachers. I realize there are a lot of people that you can also do work with, but
Yeah,
Our,
thank
our
you.
teachers are a really important resource we need to be feeding into.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yes, and I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to get them to pay more attention and do more for their teachers. And this is a way that we're moving the needle. So why would I stop?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
I
yeah,
think I think it's something they should have everywhere.
yes.
Yeah.
It's the convincing to do it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. I'm going to have to ask.
we're going to have a conversation because listen, I've had this one school district is my hometown. I've had 6 meetings with them.
Oh, my
And
Lord.
they're still talking about how they're going to do it. And I'm like, would you just do it? You got 300 teachers.
And how many? Okay. So the next time you talk to them, give them the percentage of teachers that are on the edge of burnout. Say, like, how many of these do you want to lose before you step up?
Trust me, I have given them so much data. It's just a matter of, you know what the problem is, and I'm sure that your teacher friends would back me on this. They have a pot of money and they have to decide where it goes. And I always feel like the teachers are the last pot that it goes into because they have the children, they have initiatives, they have projects, they have all these other things. And then there's the teachers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
That's so true. And you'll see when, because the teachers step up and do so much,
yeah,
it's human condition. We tend
It
to
is.
expect even more because they're doing more,
yes,
which is ridiculous when you think about it, but it is the way that it works.
for sure.
Oh, that's good. I'm happy to jump on board your mission because I think that's super important. And I have 5 grandkids. Only 4 are still in school because one's 28.
I'm just worried about who's going to teach our generations if we keep burning out our teachers. That's fundamentally what I'm wondering. Who's going to teach them? Come on.
Yeah, that's, and the only one thing I will add to that, and it's something that I believe I've had a number of conversations. You added another piece today about the thought brings the feeling. I had kept on about us teaching children that not all thoughts are real, not all thoughts are true, and you don't have to act on every thought that runs through your head because that's important. And in a show that'll be coming up soon, I speak with absolutely brilliant gentleman. And he said, actually, no, Elaine, you're wrong. It's the feelings that we have to explain to them. Because the thoughts are nothing without the feelings are what run us. And it was, oh my God, he's so right. He's so right. And the other gentleman that I was explaining to him, his name is Rex Sykes. He's been a guest on the show, and Rex and I have talked at length about this. And he said, the sad thing is, okay, you have to get a license. You have to learn how to drive. You have to get a license for your dog, your cat, whatever. We are not taught to drive our brain. Ever.
It's true.
Schools need to start teaching about feelings. And feelings are meant to flow and go. They're not meant to be hung on to or, I don't know, saved or what have you, or stuffed down or any of those things. They're meant to flow and go. And the thoughts that bring on the feelings, we have the right to choose what they are.
Yeah.
And as Rex says, I think we need to teach children that the brain is yours to drive.
Yeah.
It's not the other way around.
Yes. So true.
Oh, good.
True.
We'll start a new movement.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. Good. I've got that recorded. That's excellent. I cannot thank you enough. I am so glad, 1, you're feeling better, and 2, that you're here. And 3, I just want to say thank you so much for all that you do. It is so critically important, and you are empowering children by making sure they have teachers.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So very much appreciated. You are going to be able to find all the information on Michelle right below. Under the transcript, you'll be able to find all her links, social, websites, her book, her TED Talks, and when it comes out, the ebook too, I'm sure. Very excited about that, and we'll make sure they have a way to contact you as well.
Awesome.
If you're suffering burnout or you're worried that you're going to, be proactive. You need to talk to Michelle. Thanks again for coming and joining me. And to my audience, as always, make the very most of your today, every day. And we're going to see you next time. Bye for now.
Thank you for being here for another inspiring episode of Suicide Zen Forgiveness. We appreciate you tuning in. Please subscribe and download on your favorite service and check out SZF's YouTube channel or Facebook community. If you have the chance to leave a 5-star rating or review, it'd be greatly appreciated. Please refer this to a friend you know who may benefit from the hope and inspiration from our guests. Suicide Zen Forgiveness was brought to you by the following sponsors. Truel Social Media, the digital integration specialists. Let them get you rockin' page 1 in the search results. Canada's keynote humorist Judy Croon, motivational speaker, comedian, author, and stand-up coach at Second City, Judy has been involved for over a decade in the City Street Outreach Program in Toronto. Lisa Sugarman, Boston-based author, columnist, and crisis counselor with the Trevor Project, America's largest suicide and crisis support network for at-risk LGBTQ+ youth, storyteller with the National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI, survivor of suicide loss, and mental health advocate. Lisa's purpose aligns with Elaine's as Lisa shares content and sparks conversations to help end the stigma of suicide and connect people with the support and hope they deserve. Do you have a story to share? Do you know someone you think would be a great guest? Please go to szf42.com. And for our American listeners, that's szf42.com. Thank you for listening, and we hope to see you again.